My wife told me. It's just a friend's birthday. I checked the location and went to see for myself. She was in a private booth, laughing in another man's arms. He looked me up and down and said, "She deserves a real man." I handed him my wedding ring and said, "Then pay for her life." Then I walked away for good. I'm 43, been married for 9 years. No kids. I live just outside of San Antonio, Texas, in a quiet neighborhood where the loudest thing is usually my neighbor's truck engine in the morning. My name's Rick. I work for the local school district doing maintenance. Fixing pipes, painting walls, making sure classrooms don't fall apart. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. It pays the bills and gave us a stable life. My wife Gina works in HR at an insurance company. She's always been sharp, organized, and had this way of making people feel comfortable. That's part of what drew me to her. We met 11 years ago at a friend's backyard barbecue. She laughed at one of my stupid jokes when no one else did. That laugh was everything back then. It made me feel like maybe I mattered. Like I could be someone. We moved in together after 8 months. Married 2 years after that. We tried for kids, but it didn't happen. Some tests. Some hope. A lot of disappointment. Eventually, we said we were okay just being us. Looking back now, I wonder if that's when she started to drift. For the past 6 months, she'd been distant. Not cold, just not there. Her phone was always on silent. She started sleeping with it under her pillow. She smiled less. When I'd talk, she'd nod but wouldn't remember what I said later. I noticed. But I thought maybe it was just stress. Her work had been laying people off. Maybe she was worried. Maybe it was hormones. Maybe I was just imagining things. Thursday night changed everything. She came home from work, showered, and spent more time than usual getting ready. She put on this black dress I hadn't seen in months. Makeup, earrings, perfume I didn't recognize. I said, "You look nice." She smiled but didn't meet my eyes. "It's just a friend's birthday. One of the girls from work. They're doing something at a lounge downtown. Don't wait up, it might go late." Then she kissed me on the cheek and grabbed her clutch. I sat on the couch after she left. Flipped through the channels. Couldn't focus on anything. I kept thinking about that new perfume. About how she'd laughed getting into her car, texting someone, not even looking back. Around 9:30 I opened my phone. I'd never done it before, but she'd shared her location with me a while back during a trip, and I guess she forgot to turn it off. She said she was going to Blue Juniper, a rooftop bar on 6th Street. Her location? It showed the Velvet Oak. A place on the other side of town. Real high-end. I knew it from a work party once. Velvet booths, private corners, and a lot of guys in sports jackets trying to look richer than they are. I stared at the screen. Something in my gut twisted. I told myself maybe the group changed locations. Maybe she just forgot to tell me. But I got in my truck anyway. Took me 25 minutes to get there. I didn't call her. I didn't send a text. I just walked in through the front doors like a man who didn't know what he was going to find, but knew it wouldn't be good. A hostess met me inside. Young, polite. I asked if Gina was there. She hesitated, then nodded. Booth 9, toward the back. Behind the red curtain. Everything felt slow. The music, the chatter, the sound of my boots on the hardwood floor. Then I pulled the curtain aside. There she was. My wife. My wife of 9 years. Sitting in a private booth. Laughing. Her legs were across another man's lap like they belonged there. His hand was on her thigh. He was grinning at something she'd just said. She saw me. Her laugh died in her throat. Her eyes widened. Her body stiffened like she'd seen a ghost. And maybe she had. Maybe I was already dead to her. Then the guy looked at me. Real slow. Up and down. Like I was something that crawled out from under his shoe. He smirked. Then he said it. She deserves a real man. Just like that. Like I was nothing. I reached into my pocket, took off my wedding ring, placed it on the table in front of him. I looked him straight in the eye. Then pay for her life. I turned and walked out. No yelling. No fighting. Just silence. But walking away wasn't the end. It was just the start. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I drove. No destination. Just turned the wheel and kept moving. San Antonio lights faded in the rearview mirror. I ended up at an old roadside motel off I-10 somewhere near Seguin. Paid cash. The room smelled like smoke and cheap cleaner. I didn't care. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. She had someone else. She'd been lying for God knows how long. And the way he looked at me, like I was less than nothing. That smirk, those words. She deserves a real man. I wanted to rip the damn table off the floor. But I didn't. I walked away. It kept playing in my head. Around 2 a.m., I finally checked my phone. 17 missed calls. 10 from Gina, the rest from a number I didn't recognize. A voicemail from Gina, her voice shaky, like she'd been crying. Rick, I didn't know you were coming. Please call me back. Please. I didn't. Instead, I went into our joint bank account. Just to see. My heart dropped. $3,000 gone. Transfer to an account I didn't recognize. Labeled consulting fee. That was never there before. And we didn't have consultants. We barely had savings. I dug deeper. That wasn't the first transfer. There were 5 others. Smaller. Spread across the last 3 months. Always late at night. Always the same account. My hands were shaking. I opened her laptop. The one she barely used anymore. It still had autologin to her email. I started looking. There it was. An email thread between her and someone named M. Reiner. The subject line: rental confirmation. They'd rented an apartment. A 1-bedroom, not far from downtown. Lease started 2 weeks ago. And the worst part? She'd used my name as a co-signer. Forged my damn signature. That smug bastard in the booth? That was M. Reiner. She was already building a life with him. While I was at home, fixing broken faucets and planning our 10th anniversary. I snapped. I drove to the apartment that next morning. I waited outside. Around 8:45 a.m., she pulled up in her little red car. Dressed for work, coffee in hand, sunglasses on, like nothing in the world was wrong. She walked up the steps. Key in hand. I stepped out from behind the building. She froze when she saw me. Rick, she whispered. Please, can we just... I cut her off. You took our money. You signed my name. You lied to my face. Tears welled up in her eyes. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Didn't mean to? I stepped closer. How long, Gina? She looked away. 5 months, she said, barely a whisper. I laughed. I couldn't help it. 5 months. Half a year of lies. Of watching me make dinner while she texted him from the bathroom. Of letting me hold her at night while she was planning to leave. You're going to pay for this, I said. She looked scared then. Really scared. Not because I was going to hit her, I never would. But because she knew. I was done being the quiet one. I left her there. On the steps of her new life. And I started mine. But revenge, that was just getting started. First thing I did was lock down what was left of our accounts. I called the bank, froze the joint account, opened a new one under just my name. She still had access to my old debit card, not anymore. Then I went to the leasing office where they'd filed that fake co-signed apartment lease. I had the emails printed, brought my ID, and showed the property manager my real signature compared to what she'd forged. He looked nervous when I told him I hadn't signed anything. Told me he'd have to talk to legal. Good. Let him. I went back home 2 days later. Packed up everything that mattered to me. Which, honestly, wasn't much. Some tools. Clothes. My dad's old watch. Left everything else. I left her wedding dress in the closet. Let her look at it every day and remember what she threw away. She tried texting again. Can we talk? Please don't do anything crazy. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. Didn't mean for what? For me to find out? For her to take our money and lie? For her to have someone else while pretending to still be my wife? Then one day, out of nowhere, he messaged me. From a burner Facebook account. No profile picture, no info. Just a message. You handled it like a coward. She cried for hours after you left. Be a man. That was it. I laughed. Really laughed. Like he thought this was some high school drama. But it gave me an idea. I still had access to her old Google Drive. She used to back everything up, phone backups, screenshots, photos. It was sloppy, probably synced without her realizing. And there it was. A folder called HR Documents. I opened it. Boom. A treasure trove. Not only were there private employee files, which she should never have stored on a personal account, but there were also chat logs between her and another coworker. Not M. Reiner. A third guy. This one higher up, a regional VP. The chats weren't romantic. But they were bad. Real bad. They were talking about layoffs. Mentioning specific names. And Gina was giving him details about employees who had family medical emergencies, who just had babies, trying to convince him who would be the least likely to sue if cut. She was helping this VP build a layoff list. She was targeting people. Smiling in their faces at work and helping throw them under the bus behind their backs. I downloaded everything. Screenshotted it all. And then? I forwarded it. To her company's ethics department. To every email I could find for corporate. And just for good measure, to 2 of the people she was planning to get fired. I attached the chat logs. Let them see for themselves. The fallout was immediate. She was suspended within 48 hours. She tried to reach out again, email this time. Why are you doing this to me? I didn't answer. A week after I sent those emails, I got a knock at the door of the small apartment I'd rented across town. I'd barely settled in. Still had clothes in garbage bags. Mattress on the floor. But it was mine. It was one of the 2 employees I'd forwarded the emails to. A guy named Marcus. Mid-50s, worn down but sharp. He brought me coffee and just said, "You saved my job. Maybe my house too." I got 3 kids and my wife's disabled. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't done it for thanks. I'd done it because Gina needed to face what she'd become. But still, that hit me. Hard. Then he asked something strange. You know she and that VP? They're being looked into now. HR's panicking. But there's more. Something's off with that dude she was with. Reiner. I blinked. What do you mean? He leaned in a little. He's not just some random guy. I used to work with someone who knew him. He's been involved in shady stuff before. Got run out of Austin a few years back after some quiet investigation. Money laundering, maybe? Nobody could prove it. He changed jobs and kept his nose clean after that, but folks kept their distance. That made my skin crawl. I started digging. Old internet records. LinkedIn pages. Public posts. It took time, but I found a few things. His name was Matthew Reiner. And just like Marcus said, he bounced around a lot. Always left companies under mutual terms. A few vague lawsuits. A harassment complaint. Sealed settlements. But then, I found the real kicker. A post on a small community message board in Austin from 3 years ago. Buried deep. From a woman who said her sister was manipulated and nearly blackmailed by a guy named Matt Reiner, who started a relationship under false pretenses, then used her access at work to try and gain inside info about the company's mergers. Sound familiar? Gina wasn't just cheating with him. She was being used. That money she transferred from our joint account? I now believe she never saw a dime of it. I think he took it, sweet-talked her, promised a future, and was just riding her for access and influence. He probably pushed her to get close to that VP. Maybe even to help push the layoffs to install new people. I had to be sure. So I went to Gina's office. Waited in the parking garage. When she came out, I stepped into the open. She froze again. Tired, stressed, looked like she hadn't slept. You need to listen to me, I said. This guy you're with, Reiner, he's using you. She started crying right there. Like she already knew. I don't know what to do, she said. I didn't think it would go this far. He said he loved me, Rick. He said we'd start a life. He took your money. He took your job. You're about to be the fall girl. She shook her head, but she didn't deny it. That told me enough. Help me bring him down, I said. She looked up, shocked. You want to work with me? No, I said. I want to finish this. And you're either part of the end, or just another name in a file. She wiped her eyes. Said nothing for a long time. Then nodded. We made a plan. Gina and I met in secret after that. Neutral places, diners, parking lots, even an old library one time. It was strange. Sitting across from her like we were allies again. But I didn't trust her. Not really. I just knew she had something I needed. She still had access to Reiner's messages. His emails, some documents he'd sent to her from his private account. Stuff he probably thought she deleted. But she hadn't. Maybe she was already suspicious. Maybe she was just scared. Either way, she gave me everything. Emails where he talked about leverage on the VP. Discussions about data access. One even mentioned me. Her husband's name is on the lease, we can use that. That bastard never thought twice about using me like a pawn. We built a file. Big one. I handed it off to an old friend of mine, Sam, who works for the DA's office in Behar County. I told him everything. He didn't make promises, but he took it seriously. A week later, Reiner was picked up. Wire fraud. Corporate espionage. Identity theft. Turned out, he'd been running similar schemes in Dallas and Houston. He'd hop from woman to woman, always with access to some mid-level corporate job, always charming, always dangerous. Gina was just his latest stop. They seized his accounts. Found money tied to offshore wires. Some of the transfers even traced back to our account. He'd used Gina to funnel it without her even knowing how deep she was. Gina got dragged into the investigation. She cooperated, fully. Handed over her laptop, her phone, everything. She lost her job, of course. But they cut her a deal. No charges, as long as she stayed out of corporate work for 5 years and testified against Reiner. I watched her take the stand. Watched her cry. Watched her try to explain how it started, how it got out of control, how she thought it was love. It wasn't love. It was greed. And loneliness. And weakness. Reiner got 6 years federal. Could have been more, but he had a slick lawyer. When it was all over, Gina asked me to meet one last time. I agreed. She looked older than she used to. Tired. Worn. I'm sorry, she said. I ruined everything. I should have told you the truth a long time ago. I should have walked away instead of lying. I stared at her. Took a deep breath. I loved you, I said. I would have done anything for you. You didn't just cheat. You threw me away. You made me feel like trash. And now? You expect what, forgiveness? She didn't answer. So I gave it to her straight. I don't hate you, Gina. But I'll never be that man again. The one who believed in you. I walked out of that diner and didn't look back. That was 6 months ago. I still live in that tiny apartment. Still fixing things for a living. But now I work for myself. Small jobs, handyman stuff. I keep to myself. It's quiet. And it's mine. People say revenge is about getting even. But for me, it was about watching everything she tried to build with lies fall apart. And knowing I walked away with my soul intact. While she gets to sit in the ashes. Alone. That's justice enough for me.